the vision is always one of what you saw on the wall when you walk in a clinic, which is our slogan, making the change the world's waiting for. And I kind of took that from Gandhi's be the change to making the change. Zyto was really, like many of the electrodermal technologies out there, I liked it because you didn't have to know acupuncture, you just have the hand cradle, used that body unit, and started using it in our practice. Then I was introduced to EVOX, and that's really what was a game changer. My philosophy is very simple. There's 7 toxicities. It started with 3 toxicities, and as I evolved my thought process and as I saw more patients and saw different types of things, we saw some of these other toxicities. The toxicities are heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, opportunistics, energetics is the 4th one. 5th one is emotional, psychological. 6th one is foods, not the foods we're taking, but what we do to foods, the genetic modification, the radiation, homogenization, pasteurization, that type of stuff. And the 7th one is spirituality. Now, if you have any one of these 7 toxicities, you're going to have problems, and eventually you're going to get some type of chronic disease. But if you can effectively detoxify yourself from these toxicities, and the key operative word here is effectively, because that's a cheap word. Detoxification is like the word love. Everybody uses it, but very few people even know what it means. Detoxification, if you can effectively detoxify the body, again, that's the operative word. If you can effectively detoxify the body, these chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, whatever, by definition cannot exist. It's impossible for them to exist. Now, in my experience, the most significant of those 7, they're all significant in their own realm. Okay, I mean, heavy metals, for example, is endemic through our own entire society. But the one thing, that 5th toxicity, the emotional psychological component, is probably the deepest one and probably is where everything starts. Because I do believe there's certain people that don't have that toxicity, and even though they have some of these other toxicities, it doesn't seem to affect them. They seem to drive through because their emotional psychological makeup is one that just refuses to accept failure in any fashion or form. But that emotional psychological thing can be so detrimental and so difficult to even assess. And the EVOX addresses that. And it does it, not just addresses it, but does it in such a powerful manner that sometimes you can see a physical reaction take place in an individual, and that's very empowering. There was a lady that we had, and she was talking about how angry she was with her husband because he wasn't working out, his cholesterol was high, there's this and that and the other, and just very, very angry. This is her first PI, do the timed output. Now she does a second PI, and she's not quite as harsh. She's talking about how important this is, and he just doesn't understand. A lot of frustration still, but no more anger and antagonism. Do the second time out. Third one, very flat affect now, concern, deep concern, no anger, no frustration, timed output. 4th session, 4th PI, trying to hold back, breaking down, quivering in her voice, her own fear that if something happens to him because he's not taking care of his health, timed output, and then the 5th one, all out bawling, and no anger towards her husband, just how much she loves him and how she's so concerned about his well-being. So it went from this superficial anger because her husband wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing to really addressing whatever the issue was. Her sincere love and concern for her husband, and how that anger was just a surface way of protecting herself, So that whole transition in 25 minutes, was pretty incredible to see. People always describe a lightness, they're floating, or they feel lighter. Physically, they feel lighter after they're done, after there's an improvement. And I think that lightness, or that feeling of more having more buoyancy, is really part and parcel of getting rid of that inhibiting factor and allowing the enhancement to continue. The EVOX has the ability to help dissect through that. I mean, if you have the right interaction with 2 people, yeah, you could possibly get to certain components of it and maybe, sometimes be successful, but the EVOX systematically does it. There's no ego involved, there's no effort involved, and the provider doesn't have to even know what the issue is. This is probably one of the most significant advances that has occurred in the last 50 years.